This is Everyday Expertise, and I'm Angela. And I'm here today with Rachel. She's the creator of Down the Hall, handcrafted clay vintage inspired art dolls. Hello!
Hi, Angela.
So, how did you get started with doll making?
Well, I've always been crafty, and I went through a couple of years where I was really into costume design and sort of tinkering with my clothes and making doll clothes. And at some point, I just decided, well, I'm making doll clothes. Why don't I just try making a doll?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what started it. That was 17 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Um, did you just start selling them though recently?
Yes.
What? How come you decided to do that?
Well, I started making them quite a long time ago, and then I took a lengthy break for several reasons, just because work got in the way and that kind of thing, and also I think people didn't really get it. Some people got it, and some people didn't, and so I listened and I said, "Well, you're right. They're a little quirky," and I put them aside. But I always missed making them, and I always wanted to get back to making them, and I always had ideas for them. And so probably about 5 years ago, I thought I have to start making the dolls again. And then I had a few people who, because I had dolls from a long time ago that I'd made, and they would come in the house and they'd say, "Well, why aren't you selling these? Why aren't you making these?" And I said, "Well, I don't make them anymore." "Well, why not?" Right? And I wanted to make them. So I thought, okay, so obviously people like them and I miss it. So then I started again. And I just recently started, I think last year I started selling them. Um, I don't know, just somewhere along the way, enough people said it where they said I would buy one of these. So I thought, okay, I'll start selling them.
That's cool.
Mhm.
So, what or who would you say are your major influences?
I don't know that I don't have a person who's a major influence. I'm influenced by a lot of things that are just around me. So if I'm out for a bike ride, I might see something and I think, oh, that would be neat for a doll. Or if I hear a song, I get ideas from the weirdest things. And I have a lot of ideas coming in all the time. I get ideas from books. I have one of my dolls is, I based her loosely on Blanche Barrows, who was an in-law to Bonnie and Clyde. So I had read her autobiography many years ago, and I thought, okay, I'm going to make a bandit, some kind of a shifty girl character who's robbing trains and that kind of thing. So, and then I made an Edgar Allan Poe doll, and because I used to read Edgar Allan Poe stories, and so books can influence me, and I get inspiration from just the weirdest things all the time. I always have ideas coming into my head. Yeah. So.
So, this show's very much about process. Can you walk me through the process of making a doll from sort of idea to finished doll?
Uh, well, I usually have a lot of ideas in my head, so I have to sort of think, which one do I want to make next? And that's tricky. Um, and then I narrow it down. I do a loose sketch. I didn't used to, but I do now, um, just to put the idea down. But it usually doesn't turn out the way I draw it. Usually it turns out completely different. And then I start with a body. I don't know why. I always start from the bottom up. And the body's usually wire armature. It's usually slightly posable. Sometimes they bend, sometimes they sit. If the legs are out of clay, they don't. Some of them just stand.
Right.
I try to change them up so that people can pick if they want it sitting on a bookshelf or if they want it standing. Or so I start with making the body, and then I make the outfit. I pretty much do the entire body, and then I start the head. And the head comes last, and so I never know what the doll is really going to look like until I might have an idea, but it might not even look anything like that, because what I do is I look at, even before I put the hair on, I look at her or him, and I try and match the different hair colors. So if I think, well, I'm going to give her black hair, she might end up with red hair or whatever.
Right.
So the head is sort of a surprise unless I've planned it to look specifically like someone. And then the head, the hands, the feet, usually the legs are modeling clay, air dry clay, and I sculpt them. I don't use molds. And then I paint them, acrylic paints. What else? The hair is wool. Yeah. And then they have a finish on them, and it's pretty much it. Takes a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say each doll takes a minimum of 25 hours.
Wow.
A long time to make. And I'm very fussy. So, and if I don't like something, I'll go back and repaint it. And yeah, so I'm very fussy. And I think maybe that's why it takes a little longer too, because I'm really careful about symmetry. I have a thing for that. So if something's not symmetrical, it drives me nuts. So they do take a long time to make though, because I put a lot of detail in, and I put a lot of work into them.
Yeah. Is it easy to get the materials and stuff for the dolls?
It is, because it didn't used to be, but now I've tinkered it so that I know what to look for.
Yeah.
And it took me several years to figure out what theme I wanted for the dolls, because I had started more along a gothic-y sort of line, and then they changed over the years. And so now I know what works, and I know it's like a recipe, right? I guess. And it's easier now because I get, like I said, I get inspiration from a lot of little things. So I can go anywhere and I'll find something that will probably work. So it's not that hard to get the materials for them anymore.
Yeah.
I think it used to be, but it's better now.
So one thing I think I notice a lot about your dolls is the face. Is the wide expressive eyes, the sort of slightly frowning lips.
Right.
What would you say is the reason behind that look?
The haunted look. Haunted look.
A little bit, yeah.
I think because I've always been interested in things that were a little bit melancholy, a little bit gothic, a little dark. I love Halloween. I'm into anything ghosty and spooky like that. Nothing gory. I'm not into gory. I'm not into anything that's, no, but I'm into sort of mysterious, I guess. And so I want the dolls to be a bit of a question mark, where you look at them and you think, huh, all right. And I have people come up to the table and they look and they go, huh. And then they say, well, that one looks sad. Well, she is sad. This is her story, right? Because I sort of give them a theme. They each have a little idea behind them. And a couple of them don't look sad, but I think they're just more interesting if they look like that. It's more of a question mark, I guess.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So what's something you wish you'd known about doll making before you started?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. What is something I wish I'd known? Well, I wish I'd known how to do it sooner, because when I started, internet was sort of, and I didn't have the internet, and I really had to figure out a lot of things in my head, and I really didn't know what I was doing. But through trial and error, I figured things out. And now you can go on the internet and you can look things up, and it will say, well, this is how you make this, and this is how you make this. But really, I learned how to do it on my own. And by the time I knew, that's when I really started to see, oh, wow, you can just look this up.
Mm.
So I wish I would have had, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I guess that I would have known how to find those resources earlier, because it took me a lot of years to sort of just figure it out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
That
now
makes sense.
you can just look up anything now,
That's true.
and it'll tell you how to make a doll, right?
Yeah.
But I made a lot of mistakes. I mean, I started 17 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I would redo them and take them apart, and well, this doesn't work. But now I mean, I know how to do it, but it's all there for you now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
I
true.
wish it's a good question. I wish I probably would have known many years ago, and then maybe I would have started earlier again. I would have gone back to it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Mm.
it's a good question.
So, how do you integrate your art into your daily life?
Oh, um,
Do you have a day job?
I was a dog walker.
Mm-hmm.
I had my own business, and I always made time for dolls.
Mm-hmm.
I always made time for that. I would usually do it in the evenings. Um, but the last few months, I've made some big life changes, and I've
Right.
actually moved. So right now, I'm just focusing on the dolls, and
Mm.
that's why I'm hitting the markets. I thought, I'm doing all these changes right now. It's a good time
Mm.
to focus on that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give some time to hit the markets and be visible, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
because it's really hard to get people to see your dolls on the internet. And so I figure if I do the festivals and that kind of thing, that people will see me like you did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the best way. And people take your card. I mean, they may not even buy something, but they take your card, and you give out a lot of cards. And I think that doing the markets is much more, it's just much better than just doing it through the internet. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing throughout the year. I'm going to be doing um, the festivals, and I'm focusing on the dolls. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. Favorite aspect of making your dolls?
Favorite part of making the dolls,
Yeah.
or
What's your favorite thing about making dolls?
um just that you make a character, just that this character comes to life. I'm always really happy right at the end after it's finished. I think, right. There it is. It's it's sort of work. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's fun work, but it's a lot of concentration. And then you get to the end, and it just feels success. I mean, if it works, success, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't always work. But I guess just that I've made a new character. I feel really excited when I put a character out, and I think, okay, this is who this character is, and it's very rewarding when you're finished, right?
Mm. Do you have a least favorite aspect? Something that frustrates you?
Um, the least favorite aspect to making the dolls. Not really.
No. That's
No.
good.
Not really. No, I mean, there's things that frustrate me when things don't work out with them, and little things that, I've had things go wrong, and then you have to redo them or remake them and things like that. That's frustrating. But no, I really like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really find anything frustrating,
That's
too
good.
frustrating. Right.
That's good. It's great when things like that sort of click.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um. Well, when things aren't working out, how do you cope with it?
How do I cope with it?
Yeah.
Oh, I take a break.
Mm-hmm.
I take a break. I call it all dolled out. I'll say to people, if somebody says, "Are you making a doll?" and I say, "No, I'm all dolled out." I take a break. I put it away, and I just, no, I can't. I do get frustrated sometimes, but it's usually if I've made quite a few dolls. I usually have a lot of inspiration, and I go in and I make a few dolls and I'm really excited. And then by the end of it, I'm like, okay, no, and I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of time off. But if I'm frustrated, yeah, I'll put the doll away and I'll leave it for a couple of days, and then I go back when I'm, because I don't want to work on it if I'm not 100% into it.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're not in the zone.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if something's not working or something's not, it's usually with the painting, because I try to be really meticulous with the painting, and sometimes you get little hairs in the paint and stuff like that, and it drives me nuts, and I'm no. So if things like that happen, I just put it aside and I say, okay, go back when you feel better about it, because I don't like to do anything half-hearted. I like to put 100% into it, right? Mm-hmm.
Do you ever get block? Like creative block?
No, I don't think so, because I have so many ideas. I probably have 15 dolls in my head right now. I always have ideas. So I don't get creative block.
You have the opposites, I guess.
I have a lot of ideas, and
lots of stuff.
I don't get to them all.
Yeah.
And some ideas I've had for a couple of years, and I still haven't done it. And I think, oh, I should do that one. But then I have a new idea and I think, well, this would be more interesting than that. And that gets put to the side.
Yeah.
Right. So no, I don't get creative block. I usually have a lot of ideas going at once. So
that's good. That's fortunate. Believe me. It's
is
fortunate, but is it also sometimes a little frustrating that you just have so many ideas and you feel like you can't get to all of them right away, kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is frustrating. Yes, it is, because you're right. And I have a very vivid imagination. So and sometimes I'll have ideas that are similar. And I think, well, these two dolls are similar ideas, so I have to sort of put it into one. I can't do two that are I try to make them all different. I try to make everyone, they're all one of a kind because they're all handmade and there's no molds. Right. But I try not to repeat the same idea, which is tricky, because
it can be.
It is tricky because sometimes people want, a doll might go and they say, oh, well, do you have another one like that? Well, no, and probably won't make one exactly like that, because I don't want to really do the same idea more than once. So, yeah.
That makes sense. So, do you have any advice for people starting out making dolls?
Advice for people starting out. Probably do some research online, which I wish I could have done. I think they should stick to doing what's unique to them. I follow a few different doll makers, and there's some really neat things out there that people think up. And it's really neat that, it's tricky too, because I try to make my dolls really different, but either you get them or you don't. Right. And I have people come up, and usually people come up and smile. Right. Or they chuckle, which I love that. If you're going to come up and laugh, I love that, because I've made you happy. Right. And then you'll get the odd one who goes by and I had one woman go by my booth a couple of weeks ago, and she looked like she had seen a car accident. She actually covered her face and went,
oh dear.
And she was just horrified. And I thought, oh my God.
You're like, my God, did I trigger something?
Which booth are you looking at? Because I've got bunny rabbits on my booth, right? I just didn't understand that. I've had a few people look really sort of, what is this person doing? But generally people are very receptive and they usually chuckle, which is the point, right? Yeah. And some people come up and look sort of bewildered and they say, I don't know what to say. Well, that's good. That's the whole point, is just to throw you off, right? It's just to make you wonder, right? It's a question mark.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was the question? I went right off there.
That's okay. No, advice
for other people is just to do what they want to do and to not really follow. I mean, I think they should look at resources to help them out, but yeah, just do your own thing and don't worry about what other people say, because there is an audience for everything, right?
Exactly.
And I listened a lot of years ago to the odd person who would tell me those are kind of weird. And so I stopped doing them. And then now I get people who say, oh my God, that's amazing. And I think, well, see, I mean, it's a hit or a miss, right? Mm-hmm. And generally people are receptive. So yeah, just don't really listen to anybody else, because it's what you want to do, right?
Right.
That's my advice.
Makes sense to me. All right, so I guess we're at the point where I ask you, how can people find out more about you and your work?
Oh, well, I am going to start a website at some point. Mm-hmm. Right now I'm on Facebook. Just type in dOLL Down the Hall. I'm also on Etsy, and I'm selling my dolls on Etsy. I don't have all the dolls on Etsy. I've only got about 8. I have a lot more dolls than that, but I just put up a few. And then I bring most of the dolls to the markets. I think that's a better way to see them, because people, when they see them online, they don't really see the detail. They don't really know what they look like. And I always think they look better in person than they do in photographs. Yeah. Some dolls just don't look very good in photographs. It doesn't matter how many pictures I take, they just don't work. Some of them are okay and some of them don't. But I'm on Etsy, I'm on Facebook. Oh, I'm on Instagram. Just started on Instagram. Okay. And I am going to get a website up at some point. But if there's any questions, it's just dolldownthehall@gmail.com. But if you type in dOLL Down the Hall, you'll find me somewhere.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
And we'll have links in the description of the video as well.
Okay.
So, events. What's your next event?
My next event is in about 2 weeks. It's the Milton Night Market. So I think it's going to be similar to the Paris one, which was, that was a great event. There were so many people.
Yeah, it was very big, very busy.
It was very busy. And so it's the Milton Night Market. It's July 27th. And it's from 4 p.m. to 11. That's my next one.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
It's exciting.
All right. Well, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm Angela. This has been Everyday Expertise. Bye.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this interview. Be sure to share this video with friends and colleagues who may also enjoy this topic. Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment below, or check the description for our social media. See you next time.